Morning everyone. As Jackie was saying, my name is David Coleman of STS Digital. I'm not going to really tell you too much about my business as such. It's more a story of how Twitter, I was a cynic around Twitter and how Twitter actually worked for me. So I thought that would be quite useful to explain over the next 5 or 6 minutes. As a business, we tend to get involved in a lot around enterprise mobility. How do you control, how do you secure tablets and smartphones and the data that's on that? And I was asked by Julian and Claire at Dunning Creating Sparks to go along and do a presentation 2 months ago. And I would have to say that I was a cynic towards Twitter. I could understand people like Stephen Fry and Lily Allen using it, but Hera Hussein from Building Your Momentum, do you want to give everybody away? Actually persuaded me that she was going to go along, sit in the front row with a couple of people from Building Your Momentum, start tweeting. She persuaded me that was a good idea, so she came along, started tweeting while I was doing the presentation. At first, I have to say, I found it slightly unnerving as the audience started to look down at their phones, considering we're talking about smartphones, and start to tweet. You almost felt like saying to people, put your phones down, listen to what I'm saying, rather than twitting or tweeting. So this was going on, and next thing I start to know, there's 128 tweets were going out, and Julian then says to me they were actually trending. I didn't actually know what trending meant, to be fair, in Glasgow. So the whole momentum was starting to build up. Left the presentation, seemed to go very well, and to be honest with you, never thought much more about it than that. But as part of the analysis, Building Your Momentum actually looked at how many people that had gone out to. As I said, there was 128 tweets in a day. That hit 28,318 people, if I get the exact figures right. And by 7 o'clock that evening, I actually had Senior Vice President of Vodafone in New York link into me and say, saw what you were speaking about today, very interested in it. Vodafone are obviously very interested in this subject. It's a global solution. Really would be keen to speak to you more. So by 7 o'clock that evening, I'd had an instant response from a very, very senior guy in Vodafone sitting in New York about a presentation I'd been making in Glasgow that very morning. And that opened up my eyes to the absolute power of something like Twitter and persuaded me that actually it's something that if you haven't already got yourselves involved in, you should actually really be thinking about it. I mean, as I say, I was a real cynic on it, couldn't really see the value outside of some celebrities using it, and it took a lot of persuading that this would actually work. But now, in terms of events, getting a buzz around an event, getting people talking about it, I would recommend it's something that you should all look at. And in terms of actually during the event, it's amazing the amount of people this can get out to. In terms of our account, we're now being followed by people from London, the US, who are constantly looking to what we're actually saying. And I work very well in the fact that Hera keeps me right in terms of some of the Twitter. She's got access to my Twitter account. I'll blame her for some of the stuff that goes out. But she'll actually send out some tweets on my behalf in terms of information. So it's very, very powerful. From my point of view, yes, it led directly to a lot of interest from people over the UK, but also people in even like North America, suddenly that I would never have access to in the old days, and certainly making a presentation in Glasgow on a Thursday morning at some ridiculous hour like 7:30 in the morning. That suddenly somebody in New York actually sits up and listens to that and actually gets in touch with you later on that day. And we've been keeping a general dialogue going with them, ongoing. So that's, to me, is a fantastic story, and one that I would highly recommend that if you're not using it, it's something to actually think about and look at the power of it. Use the right context. It's like everything else. I mean, I think it's part of an overall strategy that you can be using. It's not just one thing fits all. It's a case of looking at different areas and different things. And I think you've also got to, wearing my STS Digital hat, understand the way the world's moving. By 2015, PCs are going to be in decline. Laptops are going to be stagnating. How the world does business, how the world looks at learning is all through mobile, smartphone, tablet, commerce, smartphone, commerce learning. We're doing some work just now with the likes of Edinburgh Business School around how M-learning is going to impact on people. It's moving away from even e-learning to M-learning and how people are interacting with that. That's not to say that people are going to be sitting with iPhones and Blackberries doing MBA courses, but it's another gateway to this kind of learning. So it's really important people understand how people are actually going to be interacting in the future through this type of media. And as I say, it's not a case of one fits all, it's a case of looking at the different forms and how does that impact on your business. But it's just a story that when Jackie asked me to come along today, rather than just wear a hat and bore you all to death about smartphones and technology, I thought it might be quite good to actually tell you a story of something that happened within the last couple of months to me that had a major impact in my business in terms of reaching different people and actually getting understanding from a very large global player in New York who took an interest. Hopefully that makes sense to you all, and that worked for just sharing that story for you. I'm going to move on to the next speaker, whoever that is.
Thanks very much, David.